Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose you?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
All right, you're pouring that just horrific horchata.
It's a chilada. It's not.
Chilada.
It's not like back milk or whatever. Horchata is kind of good, but also kind of gross.
Oh, horchata's delicious. I love it. But
I don't know, man. Like I feel like I got a bad horchata when I lived in LA with you guys. And it was just like curdled and like full of just like back hair is what it felt like.
No, there's horchata that like comes in like a can or like a box or something. It's like and then there's horchata you make.
But I've had I've had really good like homemade. Like Pablo's mom made a big thing of horchata one time, and he brought it over, and it was delicious. So, also
welcome
dairy,
to the
dairy.
Welcome to the Hoarder podcast.
Is it actually dairy? I don't even know what it is.
The big drink. It's actually rice milk. Thank you very much, you uncultured swine.
That makes sense.
It's delicious rice milk. Welcome to the drink podcast. We're going to talk about drinks. Usually, you drink an alcoholic beverage while we film this, and I haven't had alcohol for this whole year. So
I'm so proud of you.
I'm drinking my blue Windex that I drink every time.
I'm drinking in solidarity for you.
Thank you. Yeah, you drink enough for two.
Yeah, trying.
I appreciate it.
Anyway, so actually, this is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. We're talking about movies.
Oh, we're talking about. Speaking of things I'd like to drink, I want to drink whatever horrific fluid would come out of that game pod.
Oh yeah, dude, I bet you it would.
Oh my!
It would ruin you. I don't know what it would do.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's
umbilical fluid.
It is. It's like I feel like it's like straight up spinal juice.
Hell yeah, baby! It is. Oh,
you might wonder why we're talking about drinking spinal juice. So we're today. So we're doing like a sci-fi month, kind of like Hidden Gem, low-key, like more off the beaten path type sci-fi movies. You know, it's not like as much as I love it. It's not like Interstellar or Star Wars or any of that shit. So today
these are more like soft sci-fi. I would say
soft sci-fi or just kind of like lower like AA sci-fi movies, a little maybe lower budgets or something. But so. We watched today, and it's been on my list for quite a while, but it's always been like, I don't know, I'll see it eventually, and I'm glad we watched it, but we're watching David Cronenberg's 1999 film, eXistenZ. eXistenZ is how you say it.
Okay, I just got to start off right now. eXistenZ is the most unique and cool title ever, paired with the worst abomination of anything ever.
It's the fucking worst, but
I love it. I love that he did it. I love that he went for it.
I do too. It's like pretty ballsy, and it's a joke. Like pretty much, like it's a joke in the movie, and so it kind of by the time you're done watching it, you're like, okay, the title tracks.
And then, do you know what? Sick. The producers that he had on this movie that he went to, they're Hungarian, and they eXistenZ or whatever, Esten. I was going to see the correct pronunciation, but I can barely speak, so it doesn't matter. But that is Hungarian for like world god, like a larger than life god. See, and so I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that little Easter egg.
I thought it was in the last episode. I called it eXistenZ because that's what you would think based on the plot line, like the basic plot summary.
Yeah,
and they're just the way it's trying to look, and then obviously it's about how it's a 90s video game type thing.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that was maybe a 90s thing, like where I feel like I definitely remember seeing shit like that. It's like everything.
If you
was
die in the video,
extreme. Yeah. Well, not only like the lettering.
Totally, dude. Like snowboard video games and shit. Like everything like that has like a large capital X in it.
It's like in the
dude.
Like it's everything like an X, capitalize the X and the Z, fuckers.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so for those of you that before we get into it, Jordan wrote a synopsis. Did you not?
I sure did. I did not.
Good
So
job.
I've got one
All
for
right,
you here.
So for everyone out there in the world that needs a refresher or wants to listen without actually watching the movie for some reason,
Yeah.
this is what it's about.
This is it. When I love you, if you're coming here without watching the movie, that's amazing. Because now this will either like pique your interest, or you'll kind of be like, oh, okay, I feel fulfilled. I feel like I grasped the
maybe
movie
we
enough.
we're not perfect, but maybe we got a hot take or two, or you just like the sound of our sultry voices enough that you're like, I'd listen to you guys talk about a movie I haven't seen.
I listen to podcasts about
moms.
movies I haven't seen just to kind of get an idea. Yeah, thank you.
Our moms are just
Thank
like,
you. All-
oh, honey,
I love
just
every
like the
podcast
sound of your
mom.
voice.
I love you all, podcast moms.
Yeah,
Now let's
podcast
get into
moms.
this shit.
All right, what is this movie about? eXistenZ.
Allegra Geller, the leading game designer for her new virtual reality game eXistenZ, is with an eager focus group ready to test it out. As they begin, she's attacked by a young radical, declaring death to eXistenZ, who shoots her with a flesh and bone gun with human teeth for ammunition. She flees with a PR trainee, Ted Peichel, who reluctantly takes on the role of bodyguard. Her main focus is taking care of her game pod, an organic device that contains the only copy of eXistenZ. Allegra convinces Ted to port in with her so she can see if there's any damage, or to see if any damage was done. Only after Ted got an illegal bioport device implanted from the country gas station by the attendant named Gas, who later betrays them by implanting a faulty port, causing the game pod to fry. The two take the pod over to the Currys, a glorified veterinarian who can operate on the pod and get it in working order. Allegra and Ted port in into meet in the gaming lobby, where they interact with an NPC, and then they jack in even deeper with a micropod. The scene changes, and Ted is at a trout farm working on organic machine harvesting. He meets Yevgeny, I believe is how you say it. Yevgeny, an informant that sabotages the only working game pod, causing Allegra and Ted to turn on each other violently, with Allegra thinking she has won the game, revealing its true intentions. But when they both wake up, deeper in reality, or are they still playing the game? That's it. I just wrote that like minutes ago.
Yeah, that's
but,
good.
Yeah,
It's,
there's a whole.
It's
there's a
definitely
whole,
like Inception style, like Dream Within a Dream. Like definitely,
Right,
I feel like
Dream
Inception
Within a
owes
Dream.
kind of a lot to this.
Dude, I totally agree. Like, and actually, I think this does it in a pretty decent manner. But I think Inception.
It's a little more refined.
Is a lot more refined. Where this is very jarring because it's like it just ends and then it like you're like, oh, they weren't that original focus group at the beginning wasn't the beginning. They were in a focus group that was so Allegra and Ted
to me, but.
Yeah,
just
right.
Based on the nature of the movie, I mean, it makes sense. But it's like, that's part of the ride. You know what I mean? It's not like this necessarily this huge twist.
I think the twist is that Ted and Allegra, they turn out to be radicals.
And even then, it's like, is that still the game?
Is that
like,
still the game? Right, I know.
Whole, like,
I know, right? Wink, wink.
Is
like,
the top still spinning type situation? Like, what is reality?
Right.
Let me just say real quick. If you haven't watched this movie, it cannot be understated. So Jordan said, like organic machinery and like these they biopods. It's not. I know you're thinking like the Matrix where they like plug in with the nice port. It's very similar, right. But these ones are literally gross, alive, fleshy umbilical cords with slime. Like this is David Cronenberg we're talking about.
David Cronenberg. If you've never heard of David Cronenberg, and you've never seen a David Cronenberg film,
everything's
please change
gross.
that.
Please change that. But everything's super gross. I mean,
he's so cool though because he really does. He takes that like the sleek like metal sci-fi that you're like used to seeing, like where the Matrix does it in kind of like a cool industrial metal, like kind of just like I don't know, like hardcore, whatever they're like their motif.
It does have a style of like biomechanical, but it's mostly
but
machines
it's fleshy.
based on like a flesh thing,
right?
Whereas
right.
This
where
is
like
literally the kind of reverse, where it's just flesh doing the power of machines, because they straight up are just big blob organs. So
let's see if Levi comes back and we can join in our conversation.
There he is.
I lost you a little bit there, but
I know you're basically, if you're tuned into the video, Jordan is just a series of pixelated dots to me. So
well, and you just like you stopped. You were doing like the hang 10 sign with your hand in it. Like, anyways, yes, they're fleshy, squishy things. Everything he does is super gross. It's like it is, and it's like it's a lot more visceral than you'd think. Like where it's dirty in the Matrix, it's like filthy and feels naked here in this movie. Like she literally the opening of the game pod when she sits down and it's like the first like 5 minutes of it, she's like caressing it and it's very sexual. Like Freud would have like a fucking heyday with it's like that's Cronenberg. That's where it's like if you're not familiar with Cronenberg, a lot of things he does, it's like super sexual. I mean, he made Crash, so it's like he's all about like violent sex,
weird
like, he loves
sexual thing. Because it's like there's no like there's like a little bit of sexual tension for sure, like overtly.
Sure.
But it's
between
like,
human characters,
yeah. But it's like more like exactly. It's just like the nature of the thing is like everything is just like phallic, and like just like the inverse of that. I forget what it's called, but it's just like everything's got like big, cute little gapy holes. It's just so fleshy and slimy. It's gross, but like in the best way, and that's why nobody makes David Cronenberg movies like David Cronenberg. So
right. No, he does. He has a very twisted mind. It's like
however, erotic. This movie I'm glad because it's so Cronenbergian, but I would not recommend this be the first Cronenberg movie you watch, which it was Gatlin's first Cronenberg movie.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. So, Gatlin,
he liked it, but he was just like, that was weird.
Weird. Yeah. I feel like personally, if I was to ever introduce somebody to Cronenberg, I would just have to do his magnum opus of The Fly.
The Fly, yeah.
That's the movie to start with. I'm sure if you've heard of it or seen it out there in podcast land, that's what you should think of. And
it's got all his strength, but it's stripped down to like eXistenZ has got like a lot of like cool ideas, and you can tell they're having a lot of being playful. Where it's like The Fly is really focused. It's a
good like, Fly's so good. Such a good character study, and then it's got so much good body horror. Where this doesn't have very much body horror in it, which I was kind of expecting more, but I actually
psychosexual.
Yeah,
body thriller. Like I don't know.
I know, right? It kind of gives me like
it.
It's almost like it was like kind of a basic instinct. Like there's so many like little twists and turns that were like provocative and like kind of like fueled by like her desire to keep like the game system working was very sexual energy to it.
And the fact
maybe
that
just
like
because
her
the
game
imagery
system is a she, and
right?
Later,
It's part of her.
You find out even if it's not real, they're just essentially, even if it's their subconscious or what, but it's based on like genetically modified amphibian type creatures that like do processing power. Like I don't even know with your body.
I don't even
your brain.
Yeah. Well, that's what's cool. It's like that's what he does. Is like he doesn't ever overly complicate things. Like
that's why it's really
too much.
easy to follow.
Right.
Like it's because it's not like here's all these crazy like explaining what the machines are and how they actually work in our world. It's just like they just do, and that's just part of this world.
Right. I mean,
whether
I do think
it's real or not.
I will say though, there is a lot of like exposition dumps throughout this movie just to kind of progress the story. Unfortunately,
and they are all.
It's almost like
I know, and that's kind of like honestly the biggest weak points for me.
Right.
Is not just expedition jump, but just in general the fact that it's just like was trying to focus on this plot, which also didn't matter because it was like a game, and they're constantly being like, it is a game, we're just playing the game, but it just made the stakes not matter.
That bothered me.
It's like, who cares what this NPC has to say, because he's an NPC following the quest line, and you have to say the right dialogue to him and everything, and it's just like just kind of doesn't matter, but it tells you it doesn't matter, so you're also kind of like, all right, just get on with it then. Like
right. That scene specifically like kind of had me frustrated because like it's like I like the scene when they're with gas. It's like that scene. There's a lot of that's the best. Like that's the best part in the movie to me personally. Is like
also because Willem Dafoe is the fucking goat, dude.
Well, William Dafoe is so menacing, and I wish he was. I wish he was. Yeah, Willem Dafoe. I wish he was in this more.
I know.
Whatever. I don't care. He's got the sharpest face in the world. I'm so excited
So
to see him in
sharp,
that
dude.
new Lanthimos film.
Oh yeah, dude.
But
Poor things. Looks good.
yeah, poor things. What was your first impression? This was your first time seeing this, right?
Yeah,
Obviously,
and
because
honestly, I've been really glad.
established that.
I mean, I've been kind of a bit of a bad boy, because in the polls, I mostly put movies I haven't seen. I saw Upgrade in the last week's movie, but this last poll and this week's poll, I haven't seen any of the movies really. And so I hadn't seen eXistenZ, and I wanted to. I'm actually not that many people voted, but I'm shocked it won.
Right. Me too.
Because it is.
I mean, it only won by 1 vote, so it's not like
it was. Yeah, it wasn't like a
victory,
blowout. Yeah, but still, it's good to see, because it's like Cronenberg is a pretty well-known name in like the film community. So it's like my expectations going in were like, oh, this is Cronenberg. I've heard it's surprisingly good and kind of underrated, and it was pretty much exactly what I expected. Like,
yeah. No, I totally agree. I was pleasantly surprised, but I wasn't like, it's not my favorite Cronenberg.
no, it didn't blow me away, but it was just like.
But I think what's really cool, and I found this out later after, it's an original script, and he originally wrote it, and the last movie he wrote was fucking Videodrome, which is my second favorite Cronenberg, which actually might be my favorite Cronenberg. I don't know. It's between Videodrome and The Fly for me personally, but I just like
this
just love
does have a
Videodrome
lot of
so much.
Videodrome energy. This is like
totally.
This is having like Videodrome would be the other Cronenberg movie too. That's just like The Fly gets you into Cronenberg, opens the door to like just being like a tragic horror-esque. And then Videodrome gets you into more the weird Cronenberg side of things.
And Cronenberg's technology. I mean, The Fly does that as well. But like, I love Videodrome because it's like Videodrome. He's scared. Like, it's like literally he's like, all right, let's be cautious about what TV can do and how it works psychologically and how it works like environmentally and just mentally and all this. And then where this is like, well, let's think about video games here for a minute, folks. Like, I feel like he's one of those boomers that are like, that's just like, all right, video games are scary, but he makes it in a really cool way. I like his messaging behind it.
Take.
So,
yeah, we really need to now watch. This made me want to watch Crimes of the Future even more.
I know,
because that's another Cronenberg movie I haven't seen. And after the 90s, I don't know if eXistenZ was his last movie like that, but basically the 2000s were a turning point for him. And he started making much more like
just
commercially, like really good, just
I don't even know,
but like grounded thrillers, like Eastern Promises and History of Violence.
Thriller, I guess.
Dangerous
thriller,
Method. Yeah, they're like really good, straightforward dramas.
But it's so weird because it's like there's no body horror whatsoever. Period in them.
They're very.
It's like so
they're
weird.
Like David
to,
Fincher, like he's like I'm gonna stop going through my weird. I don't want to be known as everyone. I don't want to be a verb because he is like literally Rick and Morty. They're like, oh, all these Cronenberg monsters. Anytime there's anything body horror, because he's like the grandfather of body horror, you know.
Right. And yeah, like, well, no, right, and he really is, because it's like his movies. That's what I love about him. He's so unique. All of his like body horror and like all of his things, they're implemented into so many different facets of every character's lives. Like the cell phone is even like a weird, or like anything like electronic. I'm surprised like the cars weren't like slugs that you get into and they're like goopy and shit. You know what I mean? Like anything like electronical, any device that was like coming out that like, and you can tell that's like he's taking his like everyday object and he's like, oh, I'm gonna like perverted
and in the world of like it's like we connect with it in a way we would connect with something in the flesh, you know what I mean? And so he's obsessed with
Wand with the new flesh.
Flesh is a word I would use is probably David Flesh Cronenberg. It's like his middle name.
No, straight up, dude. When they were making the game pod thing, you know, it was like it went through like 50 different iterations, and like everyone kept making it too boxy and metal, you know, and he's like, "No, I want it organic." like you know, I want it to look like
one of those nice foot massagers.
Kind of, yeah, right. He's like, I want to look like an ear vagina. I don't know.
Literally though. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because this is the third Cronenberg movie I think that we've covered for the podcast, right? Because we did The Fly and then we did The Brood also,
and we did Videodrome. Or no, we've done
Videodrome
for sure.
Yeah, so this is the fourth.
This is the fourth.
You're right, we did.
Oh,
do
damn,
Videodrome.
sir. I kind of forgot about Brood because it's like his weakest movie ever.
It was him learning to. Yeah, it was I liked the Brood, but like, go listen to the Brood episode. You'll see.
Well, that's where it is. So Cronenberg actually, that's where like fucking Eastern Promises and A History of Violence, like, they're really, really good movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's actually a good director. So like, kind of cool, because that's what The Brood did. The Brood kind of like, it's weird. It didn't have anything he tried to get horror was like really weird and really budgeted.
It was just a good family drama, and then like it almost like the other stuff felt like kind of out of place. Yeah, right. It's like, I did the ending with her, like how she produced the babies and stuff. That was cool. Yeah. But and I love the scene. Like his writing is really good. That's how come this film particularly kind of bothered me. It felt like a first draft. Yeah. And so it was a little messy and like weirdly unfocused about like it was just like big picture. Like everything was big picture.
Each scene would seem pretty decent, and especially the gas scene was amazing.
Oh yeah, each scene was like realized that the locations were really well. Yeah, but the writing of how each scene connects to the next scene and how it fits into the larger picture, it just like it doesn't matter that much, and is like like that's its biggest flaw, I think. But it's just like I'm surprised because it's like it's got a banger cast. Jennifer Jason Leigh was I don't remember her like young. I'm more like I know for some reason I'm picturing. See, I do only know Jude Law Young. Jude Law Young.
Young, yeah.
Like I know what he looks like now, but when I think of Jude Law, I think of him in Gattaca and Talented Mr. Ripley, which both came out in the 90s. So I'm always thinking 90s Jude Law. So I was like, oh, cool, like.
I guess we just watched Grand Budapest with him in it, and he's not a huge part or anything, but like
that was literally I was like, oh yeah, like because I was trying to explain because Gatlin didn't really know who Jude Law was, and I was like, he watched Grand Budapest recently for the podcast, so I was like, he's in that, but he's not like a main character necessarily. I mean, he's like one of the narrators, sort of, but he's the narrator, but
you're not really seeing him.
Yeah, but this movie, man, it's obviously the highlight, like Jude Law, Jennifer Jason Leigh rule, fucking every other little bit. I forget the dude's name, Ian Holm, who's like,
oh sure, that classic. And all that. Yeah, he always plays that kind of like scientist-y.
He does. Well, it's pretty funny that at the end when they come out and they go back to quote unquote reality, and he's like, my accent was so thick I could barely understand myself because he's like,
oh yeah,
we have to work on the thing, you know. Like,
yeah, that was that was cool, and I loved that. I loved like it when like it ended and it came. It's almost one of those like, oh, it was all a dream, cool. But then I liked how it felt so real. Like everyone was kind of giggling, and it was like an experience where you're like, oh, like the scene the first scene you see in this movie was happening in reality, just the positions were skewed. You know, it's like it's like where those characters were.
I'm kind of of the school. I don't necessarily think that's reality, and
right?
So I'm just like. And not that it matters. There's no definitive answer. Obviously, it's purposely ambiguous. But
my definitive answer, and this, I mean, my speculation, obviously, but it's just my personal headcanon, is that it is the game forever. Like people only live in
that's kind of the whole
reality.
I think that's the whole thing. Is this like because they even say it a couple times, like life is a game. It's like this is
right.
You're never really out of the game, bro. Like because it's like even when you're out of the game, it's still a game.
Right, and you have to play the game to find out. It's like, you know, how do you get to the other side of the game?
I liked, I wish they would have played with it a little bit more because I like the lucid nature of it. Because obviously, video games were not necessarily in their infancy in the '90s, but they're not as nearly as sophisticated as they are now, with like crazy systems and NPCs and stuff. Other than like obviously some PC games that were more inspired by tabletop games anyway, but the way they had to interact with the world. But I really like the almost like lucid dream feel where it's like they're trying to get into character and they're trying to be their characters, but then they're like, when shit goes wrong, they're like, who cares? Yeah, like she's just like, oh, this is a part where the guy in the mission, you're just do a quick save and kill everyone. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of that where she's just like, oh, shoot, we lost. So the port's infected now, and it's spewing gross black ash spores everywhere, which was super gross and cool. But then they're just like, all right, let's just torch the whole thing and like wake up out of the dream, you know? Move up a step in the reality. But I wish they kind of would have done that more, because it's like she just straight up, like, they just kill people, like, because they know they're not real, you know what I mean? But
Right.
But then sometimes it's like super serious,
But
which
I thought there
works.
was,
But
I thought there were stakes though when they kill the waiter, which is amazing. That's
the
so fucking
prosthetics
cool.
are so fun in that
Dude,
scene.
prosthetics are amazing, and I love. See, that's the thing. I mean, Cronenberg's creativity is so fun, and it's like unbound. Like it's a gun made with like those really weird amphibious things, and those amphibious things, like, they really work for the show. Like, they're being whatever. Oh my god, they're being created essentially, where their like genes are split and stuff, you know, and they're like creating these like weird frog
genetically
hybrids.
modified at birth.
Exactly, like eugenics or whatever
Yeah,
with them. And so
essentially.
you've got like this, like, I love the creation of them. Like, they look like frogs and fish squished together. Like, they're really smart and like thought out. Like, this is what he does like really well. And so it's like the gun is so cool, and like he takes his own teeth like bridge out and puts it in there as bullets. I
awesome.
love that, dude.
That's awesome.
So cool.
I think it's funny that the perspective that like the games industry is like this rebel like group though too. They're just like, oh man, they're just afraid I'm gonna change the world, dude. So everyone's like out to kill me. I got my security team because it's like I'm gonna fucking drop a bomb on what reality is, bro. Which is such a 90s like outlook.
Totally. like hackers can go in and like
it's
actually,
much less
like change all of the
the
whole world.
Even though this movie is pretty cynical, it's like that idea. It's like, I don't know, we were much more optimistic about even our dark sci-fi, even like the Matrix and stuff. Also, it's like, I don't know. Now we're just like, no, everything's bad.
Well, right, and it's like, and it's not as like, it doesn't move as fast. Like, I don't know, where this movie is supposed to be like a near futurism. It's like VR. Like, I love that how in the 90s we were like, oh, VR existed in the 90s. We have the technology. People have like, there are fucking video game arcade games that you can play that have like VR in them. And so like everyone was like, oh my god, VR in like 10 years, what VR is gonna take over everything. And you're like, no, dude, VR is like, you know, nothing now. It's like there's like two games that work for VR. It's like, you know, it's so like it's so.
I know, it's like everyone is just waiting for VR to pop off, and it's like it like is good. If you're watching my video, I have a Quest right there, and so it's like I enjoy VR, and so I'm waiting to be.
But I mean, you're not killing anyone for VR.
I know. Death to the Zuckerberg. Oh god, we're on the list now because he's the fucking
I know. Yeah, right.
Well, he didn't make it. He owns it. But fucking, I don't know. It's just funny. Like, and the whole like every time his idea. This is always in his movies where like every terrorist or whatever just has to shout their ideology right as they're committing the crimes. Is so funny.
But actually,
but
I love it though. I think it's endearing.
It is endearing, but that was big time Videodrome energy when he's just like death to the demoness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like in Videodrome, he goes up and he like shoots the news.
I mean, he does it. He does it because that is reality. The amount of people when they declare what they're doing when they run up and fire a gun at a politician or something.
It's true,
you know?
and it's
like totally
obviously
like,
the visceral nature of filmmaking. You know what I mean? It's like these movies.
Right.
He doesn't make them to be subtle. Like they're not there to be like, oh, so what was like, you know? Obviously, he's got like, you know, meanings that don't beat you over the head with it, but he's not like, oh, so in this scene, what was this character's like? You know, they're the filmmaking style itself is where the intricacies lie, not necessarily in the like crazy character nuances and acting, other than like maybe The Fly. You know what I mean?
Right.
For his movies, it's like center stage is the effects, the directing, and then the overall like what is he saying? What am I trying to say? Big picture. He's a big picture guy, and I think that's the whole thing with this movie. Like I said earlier, it's it gets lost in the weeds, in the details a bit, because it definitely has like this big idea that it wants to do, and it ends up kind of coming together. But like you said, it kind of feels like a first draft, but it doesn't, like, it's its weakest point, but it doesn't really matter because the movie's so fun at the end of the day, which is like, obviously because he chose to focus on like the overall final product of like the look and flow of the movie and the score, which was actually pretty dope.
I know. I wrote in my like, I don't know. I thought the score was like it worked. It fit just fine because it just blended in the background and like kept it going. I don't know. I didn't
the
find
same
the score
Howard Shore. It's the same guy who did the score for After Hours. And it some of the
I don't know.
That's the thing, because we gushed about the After Hours score.
Right. That's what I mean. I'm like, God, I don't remember. It just didn't pop out to me. But I think it's because the place that I checked in was in that car scene, and that car scene, it was doing the rear projection, and like, I liked it because I was like, oh, cool. This gives this like a really fucking dreamy, weird. Like I felt so discombobulated.
Yeah, it's one of the many techniques that like make everything feel surreal, but that's like just his world, you know.
Right, but during that scene, the score was very unimpressive, and I just kind of was like, oh, the score blended the background, and so I kind of just avoided. I didn't give the score a chance after that. You know what I mean?
Also, in After Hours, where we were like, sometimes it's just so plain, but then sometimes I'm just like, oh, what is this? Like, and that's how this movie was like. The score during the opening credits was really good, and there's like a couple other moments that it was really good.
I wanted to mention. Thanks for bringing that up. I liked the opening credits for this, and we don't really talk about opening credits on this podcast very often. But opening credits for Upgrade that's one of the most like creative, like immersive like interactions I've ever had in a movie. It's literally like the waveforms, like Siri or fucking Alexa,
she's saying
and she's saying it. No text comes up on screen. It's just her speaking all the production company and the producers
like
and stuff.
Columbia Pictures,
Pictures, and doing that voice with like the waveforms. And I was like, God, that's so cool. That's not
true.
like a normal thing.
This is a shout out to all the good opening credits out there, because the opening credits of this movie were very simple.
I liked
it though. They felt very 90s too, like very.
Yeah. Well, dude, I actually
like Seven or something,
think...
which the 7 open credits are great. But they're simple, but the overlay and the color tones, really set the tone of like a David Flesh Cronenberg. It's very like literally just like fleshy tones, but I don't know. It gave it a vibe from the get go. Do
you know what I appreciated?
Like, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice when opening credits are their own thing. It's like you
and
could
that's
just
rare
throw
too.
them
You
over.
don't get that.
Nowadays, most often it's just like
nothing.
They throw a couple title cards, and if you're lucky, you'll get it during the scene, so you're not really paying attention. The opening scene, it's like there'll be like starring at the bottom of the screen or whatever. But this is
there'll be like maybe 5 max.
Yeah, this is like old school where it basically played all the credits right at the beginning, and it had like a whole credit sequence and everything, which is I enjoy. I probably prefer.
Yeah, I mean, it does like I feel like film did that for so long that like I'm so used to having a credit sequence at the beginning.
Nostalgic too, kind of, because it's like so many movies don't really do it, and like I said, it's like they ignore the credits to just like get on with the story, and so it's just like while they're easing you into the movie, it's just like, okay, here we're setting the status quo before the inciting incident happens, and so while you're just warming up to the movie, here's some fucking names of the fucking stupid people that worked on this movie, and it doesn't really matter, but it's just like with this movie, with the score, with like the visuals, and then it just like really set a tone out the get go. And so I was ready. That's the thing. I was ready the whole time in this movie. Like I
speaking of opening, I appreciated the fact, like I fucking LOL'd so hard when the opening shot is a chalkboard and he goes, "All right, it's eXistenZ capital
like,
Z."
I'm like, they're not wasting any time.
He's like he knows that's what's. I was laughing because I'm like he knows that every single person's gonna be like, what in the fuck is this movie? And then it opens up and he like literally tells you the title, and so everyone in the theaters went, oh.
Yeah. Here's how you
but
say
it actually it got
Here's-
me. Yeah, it got me into it because I really I was like, oh man, this is like this is like a fucking MLM or something. Like it was just like it felt good. Like everyone was there. Like it's like a seminar where people are like really
wish-
excited to get it. I love that it was already established too. It's like,
I wish
everyone
he was
in the crowd
it more
was
because
excited.
I like that guy, the seminar
Yeah.
guy at the beginning, because he's the sergeant from 28 Days Later, and he's also one of the main character from Shallow Grave. And so I was like, oh, I like this guy, but then it's like that's his scene, and then later it's like which I thought was the ending was really cool, that like every character that was in the movie was like actually the panel, and they were all the characters into like the huge role play of the game. Like that was a lot of fun.
No, and I love it. And I mean, dude, it's got one of the most like memorable endings. Like when the waiter, like that, the like Chinese dude was like, he's like, well, tell me the truth, guys. Are we
He's like,
still in the game?
tell me.
Like, yeah, like it's so
I'm
cool, like how
glad-
pure and naive he is, and like, but how, and then the
I loved
audience,
it.
we're the audience, being like, yeah, are we?
I actually loved it because I was like, oh, they're gonna end on it, but then I was like, I'm glad they didn't, because I thought it was gonna end on the gunshot, but I'm glad it just ended before they even
ended.
shot. So it's just like,
Well, you
ends
are
on the question.
Do you know that the alternate ending, it does end on the gunshot, and it actually, like, the alternate ending is like the two of them, look at each other, and then they give like a smile and like a nod, and then they fire their guns,
That's
and
fun.
so you're kind of like, okay, I'm like that's fun that he had two ideas for it, and I'm glad he went with like, the definitive, like,
I like this because it's
ambiguous ending.
It cements the question rather than the possible answer. It's more like the focus on the question. Because it's true, because even though the ending, it's like, oh, okay, this definitely is clearly another level of reality, whether it's real or not, because no longer is everything flesh-related. Everything's like these real headsets made of plastic.
Yeah, exactly, right. It looks more
The game is
like
called
it does
something
now,
else,
present.
but it's still got two random capital letters in the middle
Yeah.
of it, which is fucking hilarious.
Transcendence, dude.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
baby.
what it was. But it was pronounced kind of funny too. Like,
Yeah, right.
it's
I
like
can't remember. Yet.
Transistence.
Or
something
you're right.
dumb, but which is hilarious. But the fact that slayed me the most, because I was laughing the whole time. So I don't know if maybe it was my favorite part or not. I'm skipping ahead. But the thing that was the joke that kind of got me, because this movie's like darkly funny, and the fact that it takes itself like so seriously is kind of the joke sometimes. But like the fact that the dog kept bringing the gun. Because it's like a bone.
Each person
It's like,
had
I got this from my dog brought it to me.
This from my
It's
dog.
like
Yeah.
and it does it twice while they're like in eXistenZ, and it's the bone gun, which is hilarious because it's the dog and the bone.
Right.
But then at the end, I gave a chuckle too, because it's just like, oh, it's all in their subconscious. They're like kind of leading the thing as the protagonist of the film and as of the game. But their dog is how they hid their actual guns, like on the dog. So
Yeah,
it's just
and
like,
I love that, dude. When they pull
I know they pull his like fake fur off, and he's got the gun holsters on him.
That's so cool.
It's so cool, but that's like another
so
thing of
silly.
like, oh, that's them playing it straight again, but it like just adds to the joke, kind of. I don't know, like it adds another layer to like, oh, it's funny the dog is bringing the gun because it's made of bones. That's goofy and fun, and it's a game. But then also it's like, oh, in their subconscious, they brought the guns on the dog, so it kind of like works on a real level too.
Yeah, and it totally that like device right there is very world building to show that they're analog. Things are still physical,
And
like they have that like
they can't
sort of,
really
like,
necessarily control it too, which I think is a lot of fun. It's like they fill out the world, which I think is interesting because it's just like, so who is the sick fuck? It must be Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, the demoness, who obviously is like the game developer in the fiction, that is like, oh, I have a real personal connection. Like she stuck an Atari up her pussy or something, because it's just like, why is it like this?
Well, I love it because you can look at it deeper too, where it's like it's straight up an umbilical cord that has to be jacked into you, and to play like eXistenZ, you have to have two people. It's like it's very like paternal, and it like
No, and it's
it
like
really
drug
works.
almost imagery too. They're like at the hotel.
Yeah,
and they're,
totally,
like,
the
they look
hotel.
like some
Well,
junkies, like all strung out
dude-
on the bed when they're all plugged into it, and it's
Yeah, when they're plugged in, I love that. I love when they're plugged in, all sitting together with their own pod, and they're all plugged, and it's like super culty, like
yeah.
just like I don't know that connection.
That's the
is cool.
screenshot I used for the YouTube video.
Oh, cool.
Is them all sitting there in the all plugged in the church or whatever they're at.
Sick.
I don't know, man. Yeah, this movie's fun. I'm really glad we watched it because it's like I'm definitely. It's not like it's not one of those movies that like changed my life. You got to see eXistenZ, but I'm just like
No.
I'm like, man, that's a lot of
Well,
fun, and it's it is a good addition to Cronenberg. Like it's more fuel for him, man. Like it's
I haven't seen a Cronenberg movie that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Like we might have I think we dragged Brood a little bit more in the pod.
Brood
which
was rough,
is,
but it
which is
was
fine.
still
But I think
solid.
there's so many things about like Brood is where that's what's so cool is because Crimes of the Future, it's an old movie that he remade. I can't remember. It's a student film that he did. And
Yeah, it's like one
a
of
short,
his,
right?
Yeah, it'd be
it's
like
30 minutes, or is
like
it?
if John Carpenter remade Dark Star or something. Like
Yeah, right. And see, that's I'm like, dude, I could see him in like another 15 years if he's still alive. Fingers crossed. Making the Brood again, like doing a new Brood and like updating it. Or
I
like,
don't know. I want to listen to a like maybe an interview or something to like why he decided to go back. Because honestly, his other movies, his more like quote unquote mainstream movies were more popular. Because he didn't actually. He probably started going back with Cosmopolitan or Cosmolopolis or whatever.
Oh right, yeah.
And that movie was kind of fun. It was just Cronenbergian enough where he was going back into it, but I think part of it was the success of his son,
100%,
Brandon
dude.
Cronenberg, that's kind of taken up the mantle, who fucking rules too, and so he's just like, oh yeah, that's why my protege, that's why I started doing this, man. You're right. My middle name's Flesh. I got to do it. We're a Flesh family.
We're a Flesh family. Yeah, dude. The
Long
Flesh
live
sticks
the new
together,
Flesh,
man.
son.
Yeah, dude. Well, no, I 100% agree with you. That is I don't even really want to find out the official answer.
That's
I
just what
believe
it
that
is in my heart.
He saw his son and he went, oh, he's like, wow, these are really good. This is strong. He's like, let me show you how it's done.
I still really need to see Infinity Pool, but Possessor, if you those listening, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'd love to do Possessor on the podcast. It rules.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Possessor, but I've seen Infinity Pool. So
see, we're the exact opposite. You'd love Possessor, man. I know you.
I know. I think I would like Possessor more, and I think you would enjoy Infinity Pool. But
I know I would, and I've also been on an Alexander Skarsgård kick, so I should watch it now. And Mia Goth, obviously. So
right. That's totally.
Anyway,
but,
so
we're gonna do X and Pearl in the future, so you guys.
I know we keep talking about it, so we definitely ought to, right? So I'm gonna look up some Reddits. Do you got a money minute in the meantime?
I can give you the Mon, dude. It's quite dismal. So this actually is when I like the research I was doing about this movie and interviews I was watching and stuff, and like critics were talking about this during the 90s. This movie got like fucking panned hard. Like this was a movie that it's so weird. I didn't have enough time to completely get a deep dive into it, but it was like Cronenberg. He originally did this with like, was it Universal or something, or oh my god, I can't remember who.
Like a big studio.
A really big studio was going to take it on, but they wouldn't work with Jennifer Jason Leigh. They just thought she was like because she's just an indie darling for
I mean,
at that
so was
point.
Jude Law.
She still
at
kind
that
of
point
is
too. Yeah, I know she's
right.
Every time I think of her, I think of Hateful Eight.
Right. Yeah, but anyways, so it's like they didn't want to work with her, but he was like, that's who I envision. I want her for it. So he went to the Weinsteins, unfortunately. But anyways, whatever. That's in the past. But
as sad as it is, the Weinsteins got a lot of great movies made, which is a bummer.
Well, no, yeah, with and Miramax and stuff.
It's like
and
Tarantino,
they had a lot of
Kevin Smith, some of the best filmmakers of the 90s.
Yeah, they worked with Coen Brothers. They
part
worked
of
with
their
everybody.
career to the Weinsteins, but it's just like
right, because the Weinsteins were that bridge between Sundance and
they're like the rich fucking Hollywood scumbags that also are like.
Yeah.
But you're right. They're like reaching to they're taking risks on indie ideas and
And it's not
Which is
just. I mean, it's
that's why the '90s ruled though for film. It's because that's where you
Right.
got the most of that, of like these like indie smaller things, like really kind of having a chance at it. It's like,
Yeah.
that's where all
Yeah.
the biggest directors of the night. Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, you're fine because I'm just saying, like, aside, it's like the Weinsteins. I mean, they, now there's quote unquote justice served. So anyhow, this film went to a smaller studio, and they actually, the irony behind it is they made it in Canada, and he wanted to like highlight like Canadian film and like put Canadian like, just their whole deal on the map with this movie. So there's a lot of like Canadian like landmarks and stuff throughout this film.
Yeah.
But the irony is we don't know any of them. I know one, the motel from Schitt's Creek, because that's like the Rosebud Motel from Schitt's Creek.
I know. I feel like it's kind of a bummer because a lot of good shit comes out of Canada, but you always, every time you hear about it, you're like, oh, I thought that was American, but they just shoot it in Canada because it's cheaper. But it's like,
cheaper, and I feel like that's what this was too. But they wanted to highlight Canada. Anyways, then the irony is they didn't hire anyone from Canada to act in it, so it's kind of like one of these, like, it was really weird. He like talked about it in an interview how he was like trying to like boast Canada, but then he like didn't really do it. So, anyways, my God, that doesn't matter.
I need to see Naked Lunch still. I know we're on a rant.
I'll do that. Naked Lunch is fucking weird. It's good, but see, that's not an original either. That's what I loved about this movie is the original screenplay. For all of its faults, at least it's like his story. Anyways, my God,
I know. I'm like looking at it because now I was like looking at what movie came before and what movie came after.
Right.
Because we already said Crash, but then I'm like, Dead Ringers, man. I want to watch that new show.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen Dead Ringers yet. I want
Jeremy
to see
Irons is so fucking creepy in Dead Ringers.
Yeah,
So,
but
how much did it cost? How much did it cost?
Right. I just wanted to say they didn't get their distribution was shit. That was the moral of the story. Distribution was shit. So it got like a limited release in Canada and America. Anyways, cost $15 million to make this movie, which kind of seems like more than it should have, personally.
Yeah, I mean,
but
if you count into prosthetics,
it all goes to prosthetics.
Yeah.
Well, no, it goes to prosthetics, and then it goes to the fucking irony that this is the first movie he ever used CG. And so it cost a lot of money that time period to use CG.
$4.99. I honestly, that CG wasn't bad.
No, because it mixed. It's all puppet. It's all stop animation mixed with CG.
The close-ups were like puppets, and that's why I was like, is this CG or is it really smooth stop motion? But it was like all of it, because I noticed I was like, this is definitely stop motion. Then I was like, oh, this is definitely CG. Like,
right. You can tell it's like they would do the background CG, but the puppet would be stop motion mixed with CG. Anyways. So I assume that's where a lot of their budget went to. 15 mil though, they made $3 million in box office.
Yeah, that's not great.
That is rough.
That's
rough.
Great.
But I mean, but he's already established at this time.
I know.
So
but this movie doesn't deserve that, man. Like this movie.
Well, it was up against Matrix though.
That's the thing. It's like,
and
it's similar. Like if this movie, I don't want to say it was ahead of its time because it was exactly of its time. But had this movie come out in like 97, if this movie came out in 97, I feel like it would have gotten in the zeitgeist just sooner before like all the late 90s like weird thoughts.
It was in production in 97. He wrote it in like 94. And then it was in production in 97, and then when he moved to a smaller studio because the bigger studio, he was fighting with them so much. It took another like 2 years, to get it up off the ground. So, anyways, that's how come I feel like it was ahead of its time.
It was
for the fact that the whole time I was watching this, I was like, God, this feels like it was like 2004, and I was like, oh no, it's 99.
That is true, but it feels to me it's shockingly 90s.
Oh, of course,
I can see definitely also like it does feel like the ideas from the 90s into the like style. Like I don't know, I see what you're saying though. That's too bad, but he got his nut. He's got a good career. He's went to make on a lot of good movies. So,
you know what I was thinking? This is a little production talk we can talk. But I was thinking it'd be kind of fun to watch the trailer before we get into we watch the trailer, give the synopsis, and talk about it because it's like watching the trailer for this movie feels super early 2000s.
All right.
Like it's weird. It's like I don't know. It feels a little more advanced than the 90s.
That might be kind of a fun idea.
Yeah. Anyways,
but at least for the video.
Some Reddit.
All right. So I'm only here for the cock says, which the username checks out for this comment, I think. It's
Thanks.
not like I didn't roll into the movie loving Cronenberg already, but when Jennifer Jason Leigh turned on her meat console by flicking its bean, I knew I was in the presence of cinematic greatness. I feel bad for the Chinese restaurant waiter every time, though. I know.
Yeah.
He's so nice. He just gets obliterated.
He gets done dirty. Well, I love that. Like, I'm confused, and I think it's just because I don't think it's bad writing or anything. I just think it's kind of like they were like, "Oh, you just killed the informant," and I'm like, "Oh shit, was he really the informant?" But it's like, so I'm like, I kind of like that. I liked the levels.
The convolutedness is by design, I think, because it's like it definitely feels like it's like a game within a game within a game, and it's like they even kind of lose the threads at the end where it becomes like cliche, but that's kind of the joke. Is where it's just like, Pikel's like, I was actually bad all along. And she's like, and I knew you were, so I put a bomb in your butt.
I put a bomb in your butt. Yeah, it really was, dude.
So it's just like, and that's why I'm like, they play it so straight, but it's fucking hilarious. Like, I was cracking I was just like, of course. And then it's just like, obviously the practicals of getting his spine blown out was amazing.
I know. It was amazing. That was so cool. God, and I love it because it was all practical, dude. Even the dude's face is practical.
Yeah.
He was like wearing that and moving. It's so cool. Anyways.
And then Turbo13 says, this was a weird one, haha. I wasn't into it at first, then it grabbed my attention. I thought all the props were perfectly nasty, including when Ted tongue punched her porthole. That made me scrunch up the old face in disgust. I really like how it ended.
Great.
I really like how it ended. It was along the lines of Inception when it cuts to the credits with the top spinning. I'd give it a solid 3.6.
Nice. Out of 5, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But dude, that's oh my god. When he licks her porthole, that's the only time that I ever was disgusted. I could watch anything.
Yeah, it was like,
but when he, I just like, and I liked like good filmmaking. It's ridiculous. I know that's the whole thing. It's like these movies are like
visceral.
They're ridiculous.
He's just like just lick it. Just
these
like,
are all these are all movies too. You know what I mean? And I loved it because Jude Law. Like I watched a little interview and like Jude Law was like 100% down. He wanted to get grosser. He was like, he's like, I'll do it, man. I'll do anything you want. I was like, fuck yeah, that's so
well,
cool.
I know those things are just like little puckery buttholes too, and they're even grosser because they go directly to your spine, like.
Right, no, and I love how he's like, oh, it's just an open hole to my body. Isn't that bad? And then she like opens her mouth. She just opens her mouth to like demonstrate that, like, hey, we have holes that go directly into our body, and we're just fine. And it's like that's actually good filmmaking, but it's just so silly.
It's silly, but it's good.
I love it though.
I think it's funny that. Thank you for commenting, guys.
Yeah, you guys are great. Those are hilarious.
I think it's
so true.
I know. I think it's funny that like. He is constantly worried about infection and stuff, which is a interesting point because I feel like this whole movie looks infected.
Yeah, right.
Like the walls are like fucking worn down. Like
it's color graded too.
Everything's
to be
very
kind of like
everything's very yellow and brown.
Yeah.
And it just like seems like everything's kind of gross, and it does seem like you would get an infection just from being there. Even if you didn't have a port. And he like gets the port, like they're just like, oh, where are we gonna get one? Maybe the gas station. Hey, the gas station.
No, well, and I love that actually works. I like that I don't know if this was 100% intentional, but I feel like it was video game logic. Like I love how everything was country gas station, motel, ski club or whatever. Like everything was labeled
like
what it is.
Generic soda, like or whatever. Like, things
right.
like that.
Well, dude, I want to make one of those. The fucking the mini port that they put into their back. That would be such a cool toy to make. Like Patrick needs to make one of those.
Should because
Patrick, he would. Yeah, he loves. I mean, if he's a Cronenberg fan. If he's not a Cronenberg fan, then Patrick's a liar because he loves Cronenberg.
He's the biggest Cronenberg
Our friend,
fan
yeah, guaranteed. Okay, we have Levi's getting up real quick to demonstrate. He's going to show if you go to our video, you can see a toy that Patrick made for us.
I'm just saying I'm shouting him out because his artwork is very reminiscent of Cronenberg, like obviously of like Videodrome and stuff like that. So I wanted to grab his card to be like, oh, buy his art.
I know.
But I don't know. I don't know if this is up to date, but I'll put it on the Reddit or something because He does. He makes a lot of very body horror themed art. And we should have him make us like stress balls that are like the little ones that just get slurped up. That's so gross too. They're bigger than the hole and they get slurped in. So
I know. Yeah, I love how they get slurped in there too.
Anyway,
all those practical effects.
It sounds like we got a Travis.
We do. We got a live one. Yeah.
All right. I'm pulling it up right now. I remembered. I'm a good boy. So I got it if you're ready.
Go for it.
Hey guys, before I get into eXistenZ, I wanted to answer a couple of questions you asked me from past weeks. The most recent one was if I'd ever seen Venom, and I haven't. Although I'm not opposed to superhero movies, they keep coming out with new ones all the time, and I don't know where to start. The other question was, out of the 6 Coen brother movies I've seen, what was the order from most to least favorite? And that'd be No Country, Fargo, Oh Brother, True Grit, Miller's Crossing, and lastly, Lady Killers. Okay, so eXistenZ was alright. I have to admit I was very tired when I watched it, and my interest level was in and out. And at the end, when there's 2 scenarios for the game, I thought it'd be fun to play, but not for everyone. I mean, the first assassin who had the bone gun would have only played for 5 minutes, then would have to sit there and watch for hours as others are having great adventures in the VR world. So my question for you two is, if given the opportunity to be in a test group for a cutting-edge VR game like the one that takes place in the movie, but you had to have something inserted into your body, would you do it? Also assuming it was safe. Thanks.
Thanks. Thank
Dude,
you.
Thank
That
you
was
for...
a good question. Nobody likes Lady Killers, which is a shame, man. Lady Killers is great.
I need to watch it again because I didn't like it.
It's not good. It's not good, but it has a special place in my heart. Anyway, thank you, Travis, for also answering.
I know, yeah, man.
Answering our questions and stuff.
Thanks for getting back to us.
Yeah,
I'm glad we got your list now. Finally,
I probably wouldn't get a backroom surgery to go directly into my spinal cord. But, I mean, I'd let them put something in my butt or my mouth or something, maybe.
Sure, right? I mean, it's
it is
kind of
that immersive. I don't know. If they had, like, such a security thing, maybe.
The whole time I was thinking about it, I'm like, getting the port. I understand. It's like, that's the whole thing. It's like, in Matrix, it's you have to get, like, you know, in any of those, it's like, the back of the neck makes more sense because, or not even, it doesn't fucking matter. It's all going to the spinal cord. It's all whatever. But it's like going to the spinal cord where I'm like, if it just needs to be like organic, you already have a gaping hole that's got a muscle that lets stuff out. And like, you know, it's like you already have an orifice. It's called a butt. Like, why can't we just port into the butt? You know, I think maybe like, it's probably just because like, A, you don't get like the scene with gas for that. And B, it's kind of just like kind of almost silly. It's too silly to do it in the butt.
He can't overtly do the butt.
So
he's like, what if we had a butt for your brain? The butt to your brain, it plugs directly into your spinal cord. But it's like, he knew that. That's the joke, though. Again, it's played so straight, but it's like, he didn't make it look like a little butthole for nothing. And it's like literally inches above where your actual asshole would be. Yeah. So it may as well be a butt. You know what I mean? And it's like... I don't know. It's just funny, but
I think if I was gonna get it done, I would definitely ask Gas to wash his hands. The whole time I'm watching that, his hands. If you look at Willem Dafoe's, they are filthy. I'm like, yeah, bud. Of course you would be nervous to get that done in a fucking gas station.
It's
but yeah, I'm hella down to. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have body mods, but I would get a body mod. Do it.
I don't know, maybe. To your question, your other comment really about the other minor characters. I wonder how that worked, but that's another thing in this where it's just like, don't get lost in the weeds of like the functionality, because this is like, what is that like then? Are you existing off camera?
I think you are, yeah.
But they know everything that's happening even when they're not there, so there has to be some kind of interconnectivity. So it's
you're tripping me out. Yeah. Maybe it's like you have a third party. You know in video games when you die and then you can just watch the third person.
That's why I think that this really works. Obviously, the most unique thing about this movie is that it takes the idea of like this gaming space and this like quote unquote virtual type reality, but makes it more organic in a way. Like, obviously, not only just physically, but the idea of it feels very, again, like dream logic. So I feel like because they're flesh and bone, the machines themselves, that the playing the game would be similar to having like a lucid dream. So it's just like, I feel like when you die or you wake up or something, like time probably has to work differently. So I don't feel like I don't feel like it's like
dream
our
logic.
Yeah, it's not like our normal understanding of what an actual VR game would be like, where it's like if we were all playing VR and I was playing a character and then I died and then I would just be watching you guys waiting around. Like, I don't know if that's how it works, but it's just like, that's the thing. It's like, you don't know how any of this works. You know what I mean? That's
what's nice. He doesn't try to overly explain that.
Yeah,
that's great.
That is nice, because it's like, it's just funny because it's like he tries to over explain like the conspiracy, which is like the script of the game, which doesn't matter. So it leaves you with more questions like, if you're going to spend all this time explaining things, why don't you explain your world more? I'm glad he didn't, because I like the ambiguity. It makes more, because like a lot of times when you try to explain that shit, it just ends up fuckering it anyway. But
yeah.
So anyway,
But I also wanted to say something real quick. You could watch Venom and start there. Honestly,
Dan,
it has
you
no.
haven't even seen Venom. How would you know?
No, but because it's a standalone. It's not like Venom from Spider-Verse or something. It's not Venom from.
I'm pretty sure he's in like the Avengers or something.
Oh, does he come into one?
Dude,
I thought
they're all connected, and I hate it.
But I think it's connected. I think it's connected like where like maybe Peter Parker swings by in the background, and then it's his own thing. I know.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't say, but I'm pretty sure in the second one, it's like literally Iron Man's in it or something. Like,
well, see, I don't count the sequels because that's what I'm saying. He said he doesn't know where to start, and I'm saying you can start with Venom. If you watch the first Venom, you're not going to be. It's not going to spoil Endgame. It's not going to get any. It's not going to spoil anything. It's not like
just don't watch any of them.
Just, I mean, but if you wanted to start into it,
just go watch the 2 Spider-Verse movies.
Well, right. That is my definitive answer, because those are completely self-contained. They have nothing to do with like the larger cinematic universe. Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like being multiverse. They kind of do, but like not really. But
but they're it's like they already are doing that live action.
Let's nip this in the bud. Let's nip this in the insert port.
Yeah, in our bioport.
Nip it in the bioport.
Yeah, dude. I want to get a tattoo. Oh, I should have got a bioport tattoo, dude. I still can, I guess.
You still can get it underneath your other tramp stamp.
Yeah, I know, dude. Hell yeah, I'm gonna 100%.
I'll do it. I'll fucking give it to you, man.
Let's do it, dude.
Anyway, so that's eXistenZ. It's cool. It's worth your time. It's short. It's fun.
If you're here, I'm hoping that you like Cronenberg. So
yeah,
but if not, give him a try. Please.
I know we've done 4 Cronenberg movies, so I don't know. Like, well, eventually we'll just do his whole filmography. So
I guess it's like funny because I don't think of Cronenberg as like being like one of my favorite directors, but then I'm like every movie I've seen by him, I'm like I really like it.
I'm like yeah, he'd probably crack the top 10, but he's not one I always think about. But every time I look at his filmography, I'm like, I really like all his movies.
Everything I've
seen, I like. So anyway, so that's eXistenZ, Cronenberg. Moving on,
thanks guys for commenting and calling.
Yeah, thank you everyone. We are next week. We're continuing on the sci-fi trend. I put a couple older sci-fi movies, and the oldest one.
Yeah, that was cool.
I didn't expect, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Yeah. So Barbarella is what we're watching next week. And I've literally only seen like the poster and like an action figure or something of this movie, and that's
I know.
So
same here. I've seen some scenes. I watched it with this is like a flashback. It's been on the TV when I used to hang out with Zach Wright, a friend of ours. His parents had like every movie ever made on VHS, and then we watched that on like a big TV, and I do not remember. We played a lot of Resident Evil there too, but
yeah.
OG,
so stay tuned. Barbarella, go watch that this next week. We'll be covering that. And then we got some bonus episodes coming up. We're, like we said last time, we've been trying to give more content to our Patreon. So if you made it this far and you're a Patreon, thank you. Or if you're not a Patreon, consider if this is something that sounds interesting to you. We did Evil Dead Rise this last couple weeks, and then we're gonna do. We actually don't know for sure, but we're gonna do Asteroid City. Probably Decision to Leave, and maybe the new Spider-Verse movie, just because it's because why not? You know what I mean? Because Jordan's gonna go see it this weekend, and I just saw it, so it's
hell yeah.
I just I have no one else to talk to with movies about, so I'm like, let's talk about it and make it a fucking podcast.
Let's do it. Yeah, I love it.
So that's for our Patreon. So if you want to listen to those, go check that out. And if you are a Patreon, we love you. Go watch those movies and listen to them. And if you have a movie you want us to watch, your opinion means more. So just tell us.
Yeah, and right now Reddit's kind of in a blackout, so it's kind of odd. But when Reddit comes back on and when that's fully functioning again, we'll be posting on there, and that's a nice forum to come and give your opinion and give your we don't have to read it on the podcast, but sometimes we do, and it's fun.
So I just like having the discussion and knowing that people are watching these movies, and it's always makes it fun that I can watch a movie that's 24 years old and it feels fresh and people are talking about it and everything. That's the whole purpose.
You get people's memories and their opinions. It's fantastic. And then please join us on Patreon. We got Sticker of the Month Club, some hot sticker action, and a bunch of bonus content. So
I know I tried to upload a sticker the other day and I was having a hard time, but I'll tell you about it later. I made a pretty fun Evil Dead sticker.
Oh, sick, dude. Oh, that'd be kind of fun to do.
Because we were talking about Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise and stuff. Anyway, thank you for listening. Love you.
Have a good night.
Goodbye.
Be a podcast, babies.
Bye.